Mm, yes. Can I be candid with y'all? Good morning. Welcome to another edition of Coffee with Tea. I'm your host, the amazing T Street. Can I just be real with you for a minute? This coffee right here, this Southern Pecan, ooh, is speaking to me. I need another sip, y'all. But I'm going to jump right in because I want to make sure that I respect your time and honor you who you are today. Thank you for coming on. Today's topic is one that I'm way too familiar with. Um, if we're honest, all of us at some point in our lives, we will face grief. Good morning, Alana. Grief. Whew. I'm way familiar with grief. And can I just really be honest and transparent for a moment? I navigate a lot of things in life very well. But can I tell you, grief is the trickiest thing I've ever had to navigate in my entire life. And I've navigated a lot. Good morning, Wendy. Good morning, Jackie. Good morning, Val. Good morning, Rhonda. I have navigated a lot, but can I tell y'all, grief is the trickiest thing that I've ever had to navigate. Most people, when we think of grief, we are thinking about people immediately. We start to think about death. And certainly, grief shows up there, but grief is bigger than funerals and cemeteries. Grief can come when a relationship dies, it can come when a dream dies, it can come when you have lost your job, when your children grow up and leave your house, when your health is changing. I don't know if y'all can hear it, but my health this week is bad. When life doesn't look like what you thought it would, grief is the emotional response to that loss. But I've learned some things. Grief is real, but it doesn't get to be the ruler of your life. Did you hear that? Grief is real, but it doesn't get to be the ruler of your life. It can visit, but it doesn't get to move in and own your house called life. So today, I want to share 3 ways that we can rob grief of its victory. It doesn't mean that we won't ever feel grief, because grief is a continual thing that we process in different ways over and over. But guess what? It does not have to rob us of our lives. So today we're going to talk about how do we rob grief. Grief, I'm putting you on the back end of the barrel. You're on the back end of the barrel. You may show up, but you don't get the victory over our lives. First, feel it, but don't build a house there. Whatever you're grieving, people lost, people gone, relationships, your jobs, status change, whatever you're grieving, feel it, but don't build a house there. One of the biggest mistakes that people make is trying to skip grief. We tell ourselves, I did. When my mother died, y'all, I was like, I'm good, I'm good, I'm good. I was preparing for the funeral. I was preparing to preach her funeral. I wasn't focused. People kept saying, how are you? And y'all, all that did was like try to penetrate my mind. I'm like, I'm good. I got this. I'll get over this. I don't need to talk about it. But y'all, grief, ignored, doesn't disappear. It just changes addresses and shows up somewhere else. I ignored it over here, y'all. It showed up over here in my life. Sometimes it shows up in it. For me, it started to show up as bitterness and anger. Sometimes it shows up like that. It's bitter, it's anger, or it shows up as exhaustion because you're really processing grief as depression. Sometimes it shows up as isolation. I didn't want to be around nobody. The months after my mother died, I didn't want to be around people. I could not, people, not even the people that I loved. It was hard for me to show up for my dad and my sister and my brother. I did, but it was hard. They were the only people that I was willing to show up for in that season. If you're grieving, give yourself permission to feel what you feel. Cry if you need to cry, talk if you need to talk, sit quietly if that's what your moment requires. Healing begins when honesty begins. But here's the key. You visit grief, but you don't build a house there. There's a difference, y'all, between processing pain and permanently parking in it. You can acknowledge your loss without allowing your loss to become your identity. The other day, I found myself saying, there's a pre my mother's death tea and a post. The devil is a liar. The devil is a liar. Joy is possible even in and after grief, y'all. What happened to you is part of your story, but it is not the whole story. Number 2, Celebrate what was instead of mourning what's gone. My favorite time that I ever had with my mother, I was thinking about it, was one time I took her on vacation because I needed her. Oh my God, I was in such a state of depression. And I asked my mom to go on a week-long trip with me to San Francisco. And one day, this moment is forever etched in my mind. We were taking a boat over from the ferry from San Francisco to Sausalito. And while we're on the boat, I had never done this because I'm not vulnerable, not even with my family, y'all. I don't do tears, I don't do all that stuff. I sat and I asked my mom, "Can I lay on your lap?" And I laid on my mama's lap on that ferry, and my mama stroked my hair as I poured out my whole heart to her. When I think about my mother, I don't mourn all of what I lost. I celebrate who she was and all that I can remember that literally helped me to become the person that I am. I look at what I lost. I look at what's missing. I look at what will never be again. But victory over grief begins when gratitude enters the room. The other day, I found myself thanking God for all that my mother poured in those 83 years that she was here. That woman poured a lot in 83 years. If someone you love passed away, thank God that they lived. If a season ended, thank God that you experienced that season. If a dream changed, thank God for what that dream taught you. The fact that something ended doesn't mean that it wasn't valuable. If we keep mourning, I understand that mourning is what we go through because we loved well. I get all those cliches. But can I tell you, every beautiful chapter eventually has a last page. Even us, we're going to have a last page. That doesn't mean that the chapter was meaningless. Think about summer. I told you yesterday, we're going to live our lives like it's summer. We're going to live our lives like it's summer. Nobody cries because August eventually becomes September. Okay, I do. We celebrate the memories, the growth, the experiences we gained while that season lasted. The same thing is true with people and seasons. Gratitude means we remember. Gratitude doesn't erase grief, but it keeps grief from stealing all of the good memories. Y'all, grief was trying to literally the other day take me out of here. And I was like, you got me messed up. Keep living so grief doesn't get the last word. Every day I think about what my mother would say to me in this season. She'd be like, I'm gonna need you to pick yourself up, dust yourself off, go and get you some tissue, blow your little snotty nose, but I'm gonna need you to get back to living because what we not gonna do is throw a pity party. This one is big, y'all. Grief wins when it convinces us to stop living, to stop dreaming, to stop loving, to stop laughing, to stop trying, to stop believing. But the greatest act of defiance against grief is to keep showing up for life. That's how you tell grief, nah, you might have came, but you lost this battle. You might have came, you tried it, you threw a punch, but it didn't knock me out. It just knocked me down for a minute. Not because the loss, y'all, didn't matter, because it mattered. The people who loved you wouldn't want your life to end just because their season ended. The lessons that the lesson for me is that grief wasn't meant to be my permanent address. Every day I get to choose joy again and again. I get to choose purpose again. I get to choose faith again. Every time you choose joy and purpose and faith, you are robbing grief of its victory. You're saying, you may have wounded me, but you won't define me. You may have changed me, but you won't stop me. You may have taken something, but you won't take everything. That, my friends, that is power. That is resilience. That is healing. So if you're carrying grief today, remember these three things. Feel it, but don't build a house there. Celebrate what was instead of only mourning what's gone. And third, keep living so grief doesn't get the last word. Because grief may have won a moment, it doesn't win a season unless we allow it to. It may have won the moment, but it hasn't won the season. It may have gotten to first base, but it won't get a home run. That just preached to me, y'all. I'm sorry. I apologize. And every time I choose hope over despair and purpose over paralysis and life over loss, grief gets robbed of its victory. I know that today was deeply personal for me, y'all, and I hope y'all don't mind going on this journey with me. Good morning, Sheila. I love you. I know what it's doing right now, but it's not your permanent address. Good morning, Darlene. Y'all, grief comes, but it doesn't become our permanent address. And I apologize if today was deeply personal for me, because every now and then I need to give y'all a word that I needed for myself. This whole week, the enemy has been trying to take me out over grief. When I'm sick, I get good morning, Julie. When I get sick, y'all, I get like emotional. And so this whole week, I'm not feeling well. I don't know if you can hear it. Y'all be praying for me because I've got to go and do staff training today because my program begins and I'm with kids all week and they passed on their little nasty germs. But can I tell you, the other day I was having a moment and God told me, grief does not have the final say. It does not get the victory unless you lay down on the mat. Unless you lay down on the mat, the only way that grief wins is if you lay down on the mat. Grief might throw a punch, baby, but it won't knock you out. I dog double dare you to keep showing up for purpose. Keep showing up in faith. Keep showing up with joy, because those are the things we get to choose. And when we do that, we don't ever mourn like people who have no hope. Y'all, I'm the amazing T-Street, but you already know there's absolutely positively. Good morning, prophetess. There's absolutely positively nothing amazing in me that's not in each and every one of you, because all of us should be possessing the Almighty God who came so that all of us could have amazing lives. Y'all, have an amazing day. Whatever you do, rob grief of its victory. Have an amazing day. Thank you. I received that, backing up sickness, prophetess. Ooh, I received that. Ooh, back it up. Y'all have a great day.